It is Game Day Live. It is Game Day Live on KWTX on this Saturday morning, and it's all about who is Baylor. And it's, of course, we kind of know who Utah is. Utah, of course, back-to-back Pac-12 champions coming off their opening win to start the year against Florida a week ago Thursday. And Baylor, after a almost lost to Texas State last week. Everybody's mad. Everybody seems to be frustrated, looking for something to blame or someone to blame. And Baylor today, Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, and this is Game Day Live. And now, do you either come out like a wounded animal or you go 0-2, and who knows what happens after that?
Yeah, they need to play with a lot more fire, that's for sure. Don't know how that's gonna change out from this week to last week. You know, you would think they would, but their offensive line problems are troubling not only in the long term but the short term because or vice versa on that. The short term, I don't know how you fix that problem in a week. If Texas State mauled you, I'm not sure how you're going to go out against Utah and not get mauled again. That's my big question.
Yeah, well, what's up, everybody? Good to be here on another Saturday morning, and a big game, obviously, at McLean this afternoon. So, yeah, I mean, who is Baylor is the question that we're all going to learn at some point here in the next few hours. And, you know, I don't know that it's going to be a win-loss thing. It's going to very much be, you know, just how they perform, I think, more than anything to tell us who Baylor is. They could lose this game, and we learn a lot more. They could win this game, and obviously that would tell us a huge amount. But, yeah, I mean, it's a huge opportunity, and it's good to see them get another opportunity to get out on the field and wash some of the taste from last week out of their mouth.
We will hear from Utah football coach Kyle Whittingham, who has built a tremendous program in Salt Lake City. We will also hear from Baylor's head coach Dave Aranda following the loss against Texas State. Had a chance to visit with him much earlier in the week, and you could tell he understands. Mack Rhodes, the director of athletics, a couple of different times on how there is heat because something needs to be seen, something that positive coming out of this week, no matter what the score is. But it's not like, okay, we just have to play well. Yes, that's it. Utah's good. You can play well and not beat Utah. You can be 1-0 and play well and not beat Utah. But in the bottom line is the Baylor needs to show what they are in some particular way. And after what we saw Saturday night, you wonder what that is. This pregame show brought to you by Richard Carr Motors, thanks to the great folks Richard Goff, Richard Carr, and so many others here on 365 Sports and also on KWTX. So this story from earlier from ESPN's Pete Thamel, he had this out earlier. Utah quarterback Cam Rising not expected to play against Baylor today. The Utes will start Bryson Barnes, who played last week in the win against Florida. Again, another significant package for dynamic backup quarterback and basically almost as much a running back. And we spoke with Josh Newman about that, who covers Utah in, of course, Johnson. So there we are with that. Obviously, Cam Rising's really good. That's why he would be the starter. He has been cleared, but again, they held him out last week against Florida. He was cleared, but not cleared yet to play. He's been practicing a little bit. He's pretty darn good. We'll hear from Darby Brown, by the way, from McLean Stadium here momentarily. So last week, we know that Blake Shape had actually put up really nice numbers. 21 of 31 passing for 303 yards. He also threw for touchdowns as well and looked like he was in control of the game. Still a little bit not quite enough down the field. And that's something, but he did play well. And that's something Sawyer Robertson showed when he came in. Also the ability to escape, has to protect the football better. Is there a chance that Sawyer Robertson, not saying he's better than Blake because there's not enough evidence or tape, but is there a chance that he just brings some sort of spark to this team, emotionally as much as anything?
I for their sake, I hope so. I think that it's tough when you're going to go out and make your first start if your offensive line's not going to be very good. I think that's going to be kind of scary for Sawyer Robertson. But if he operates as the starter for the next 3 weeks and can go in knowing he's going to start, that probably means he's going to be able to play a little bit better. Because also last week the situation was strange in that Baylor kept trying to get Blake back in the game. So Sawyer's coming in, he's coming out. Is Blake coming in, he's coming out? Like, is it, you have that going on in your head? I think that factor where he knows, look, it's your job right now. Go ahead and go win this game. That will be a lot easier for him. Blake Shapen did have command of the offense. He did. He absolutely showed that. They made plays, but you can have all the command of the offense you want, but if you are under duress, it just does not matter.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were quick to want to go and blame Blake Shapen. Saw a lot of deleted tweets, some snarky comments about Blake that suddenly vanished when it was realized that he was actually hurt, even from media people who should have known better. But that's all right. I think when all was said and done, that people realized or learned that last week was not a Blake Shapen issue, that it was a pretty much everything else issue. It's easy to blame the starting quarterback, especially when he's not been the guy that everybody's just wanted to embrace because it hasn't always been pretty. And there's a certain expectation, and he had to grow up and take some bumps along the way. And I think everybody was kind of impatient when it came to that of like, no, he's got to be ready to go and right now. And so that's automatically things go wrong last week. Oh, it's Blake Shapen's fault. We got to get him out of here. It's like, oh, how about it's everything else but Blake Shapen? And so to see him play as hard as he did last week and play pretty well without really a whole lot of help, and then to end up by the end of the game injured and unable to finish just one game in, I think is a real shame. The good news is that he's going to be healthy in the next month at some point in time. We don't know how long that'll take, at least a couple of weeks. So, yeah, with Sawyer Robertson, I mean, you're the guy, and that this is your team now and will be for the foreseeable future. And, look, if you play well enough, then maybe it's your team for good. I mean, if they go out and beat Utah and beat Albany and beat Texas, I mean, how would it not be his job? So he's got a golden opportunity right in front of him. I know Blake Shapen will be dying to get back, but, I mean, the keys are in Sawyer's hand now, so let's see where he wants to drive it. But, huge opportunity for him, and I just hope that they can keep him upright because they couldn't keep Blake Shapen healthy for one game. Mm-hmm. They lose Sawyer Robertson, and we see something similar. They have a walk-on quarterback for all intents and purposes as their only options after that at that point. So, very curious to see how they protect him. But if they do, then Sawyer's got a great opportunity today.
One of the things about Blake Shapen, and we'll go to Darby in just 1 second, is that one of the things that I always admired when Charlie Brewer was locked in as a starting quarterback at Baylor, even on the 111 team when he came in to become the starter to 7-6 and then the Sugar Bowl, he was not against sacrificing his body. Now, that probably ended up ending his career or at least derailing his career because he took so many hits to the head, to the shoulder, everywhere. I'll never forget the game when they won at TCU when he ran over a linebacker that's about 30 pounds heavier than him. He would absolutely give up his body. And it was something that last year was brought up about Blake. It's easier for us to say it. We're not the ones taking the hit. But it's ironic that he did an unbelievable job on the touchdown run where he just got hammered at the goal line like by two different players. Unfortunately, eventually, then's a knee injury, and that's why you protect your quarterback. Sometimes you can do that, sacrifice yourself, but there's also consequences to it too.
Yeah, what was the criticism of him before? He didn't show a lot of guts. Well, last week, if you said that he wasn't showing guts, I don't know what you. Yeah. What did you think he needed to like save somebody from a fire?
No, he should have gone back on the field after he had his leg wrapped up. He did. He did, and I wish for his sake, any quarterback that gets a chance to get back on the field, and he'll be waiting, probably waiting his time to do that. We're now joined by, she is at KWTX, and she is a part of what we do every single pregame with Baylor football, no matter home or away. Darby Brown, who's at McLean Stadium, the tailgating. There's been a lot of talk this week about the game day atmosphere and much more. Darby, thanks for your time. Your thoughts as throughout the week we've seen Baylor opportunities. Are they locked in, you think, to try to show something that they did not show much at all last week against Texas State?
I think they are absolutely locked in. I'm curious to see when we start to see these players come out here, the energy levels. I felt like at the beginning of the week, we get to talk to them on Tuesday. I felt like it was still a little flat, like they were still a little stunned by what had happened, which is understandable when you take a loss like that. But now that it's Saturday, they've hopefully had some good practices under their belt. They hopefully have those energy levels back up. I like what you said about Sawyer. I hope that, maybe he brings that energy up here and there's a little bit of excitement. And, hey, obviously they think a lot about Blake. They think highly of him. But bring in some new energy, bring in a new face out here. Maybe that'll bring some different energy to the offense. And, again, I think they just have to come in like, last week didn't even happen almost. And they just got to start on a way different note here at McLean.
Well, maybe, Darby, also, do you think that Sawyer might create a sense of urgency of like, oh, hey, we're down a guy, our starting quarterback. We can't mess around anymore. This is Utah, the two-time Pac-12 champ, rolling into our house.
Yeah, and listen, rolling out your backup quarterback in week 2 is not ideal, and especially because what we saw from the offensive line. I mean, they have to protect him this week, like simply. If they don't do that, if he gets in trouble, I mean, we don't even want to talk about that, but it's just not ideal to have this be the reality in the second week. So that should be some urgency too. Like, hey, this is our second guy. We have to do our job to protect him so that he can play his best game here, and hopefully they just. I think they truly were so embarrassed by what happened last week. Everybody was talking about it. I saw some tweets from players' parents and things like that. And so, you just hope that all of it combines to, hey, let's go. Why not? Why not? Yes, it's Utah. Yes, we're sort of, maybe underlooked now at this point, and rightfully so. But maybe they can play a little looser with that as well.
Darby, it's supposed to be a heater. I mean, it looked like he was going to be like 106 when I was looking at the weather yesterday. I know it's still supposed to get to triple digits, but how's it feeling out there? Is it hot and muggy? How would you describe it?
It's definitely muggy. It feels okay right now. I know how much it's going to heat up. I mean, I was out there last night in high school football games. That's probably the hottest second hottest I've ever been, and maybe week 1 for football. So if it gets anywhere near that today, yeah, it's going to be tough. But, I think if Baylor would have the advantage there. I mean, they've been dealing with the heat a heck of a lot more. So hopefully it's kind of just business as usual for them at this point. The fans and us and everyone else, we're not quite conditioned for it. So, but it's going to be hot, no doubt. It is. I think it's 70%. It's really humid. It's sticky. You can feel it.
It's supposed to actually start to get relatively cooler here pretty soon in the Central Texas area after 100 degrees day after day, weeks after week, and months after months. Darby, you mentioned that they might have still been kind of in a fog after what happened on Saturday. Dave Aranda is not going to be your rah-rah guy. He's not going to be the one that yells and screams. How important do you think it is for somebody internally, someone that is a part of this team, 2 players, 10 players, a position group, to get something locked in when it comes to this team emotionally?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. And honestly, I don't know who that is. I think a lot of times the players are very reserved. I think back to when Gary Bohannon, he was probably the last guy I remember doing interviews with where I was like, this guy is super animated, and you can feel that. And so I think whether it's how they act with us or how they really act with each other, but you hope that behind the scenes, somebody is going to be that guy to get them back up here on their feet and ready to roll. And, I do think Dave Aranda obviously brings inspiration and everything else in another way. You can see they're walking out behind me, actually, way across the field. They're like little dots here. But they are doing their pregame. The coaches are bumping into them shoulder to shoulder here. So we love to see that. There is energy in this group. And it's week 2. Maybe they can prove that last week was a fluke. I don't know about that, but we'll see how it goes out here.
Thank you, Darby. Appreciate it. We'll hear from Darby Brown, KWTX, a little bit later on in our pregame show here from our studios on MLK 365 Sport. Garrett Ross later in the show will have his keys to the game. Both head coaches will be a part of this pregame show, as I mentioned, Dave Aranda and Kyle Whittingham. Both of them will be a part of it. So will former quarterback, Baylor quarterback, and also color analyst J.J. Joe. We'll come back and also look at the Big 12. Already 1-0 for the weekend with Kansas last night playing Illinois. Jalen Daniels back in the lineup along with much more. Coach Leipold's done a really nice job. What he did last year, now winning is something like, oh, Kansas won. It's not like, oh, my God, Kansas beat somebody. That is long gone with what they're doing with the Jayhawks. And this is 365 Sports and KWTX and Game Day Live.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, Your Bank for Life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
ABC believes everyone deserves the unwavering love of a pet. First-time and under-resourced pet owners need info and affordable vet care like spay-neuter. These lifelong benefits reduce euthanasia and keep pets and families together, especially when life is hard. ABC is the heart of the solution. To save the lives of more pets, our goal is to cover 24 veterinary shifts at $1,000 each.
I'm Carol Weaver, your Central Texas mattress expert at Waco Mattress Center, serving all of Central Texas with top-rated brands like Sealy Posturepedic, Stearns & Foster, and the best-selling Tempur-Pedic. We have over 60 models on our floor with same-day delivery available. We make it easy to choose a great night's sleep. You'll be glad you came to Waco Mattress Center. We will not be undersold, and you will get world-class service. I'm Carol Weaver. Thank you for your business and keeping it local.
Right here on KWTX and also 365 Sports with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. We appreciate all of you for being a part of the show. The chat room is already going. One of the things that brought up by AF Blue 82 is how will Utah handle the heat? To me, the heat becomes a factor, not at kickoff. It depends on, is this game, as they turn into the fourth quarter, is it still one way or the other, either team can win the game? If it's a 35-10 lead for Utah, the heat's not going to be a problem. But if they're playing from behind and not sure if they will, can it then become a problem? Here's a tweet from a young man that sets up some of the equipment on the field prior to the game. That's Josh Newman, who's been a part of our show. He is a contributor for KSL in Salt Lake City. By the time the fourth quarter rolls around in Waco on Saturday, it's going to be roughly 100 degrees. Probably hotter than that, of course, down on the field. Could get pretty interesting if Utah does not have this thing wrapped up and is in the middle of a dogfight. And then at the bottom, this is from W4IPA/5, was setting up on the field last week before the game against Texas State. Remember, it was a 6 o'clock kickoff, and the field was 157 degrees at about 3 or 4 o'clock. Now, this game's not going to get to that, like 3 or 4 o'clock. It'll be over by then, but puts it in perspective, what's it like on the field.
Well, it's going to just get hotter during the game. So I remember when I was in high school, we had summer weights, and you could do the morning or the evening, and this is in South Florida, so it's very humid and hot every single day. I always chose to go in the evening because when you're going in the evening, it's getting cooler as you're working out. As when you go in the morning, it's getting hotter as you're working out. And so this, like last week at least, when Baylor was going on at 6 o'clock, it's technically getting cooler, although if you've been out there warming up since 4:30, you probably don't really feel that. But yeah, it's going to get hotter as the game goes on. Curious to see how that works and how Utah's prepared for it. Boise State against FSU a couple years ago, they locked themselves in the indoor and made it super humid and got used to it and went down to Tallahassee and won. I don't know if Kyle Whittingham's done anything like that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to it.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll play some type of a factor, but if any team was going to be conditioned to not have it really affect them too much, it would be Utah. I don't know how you replicate the conditions other than just the offseason conditioning you've gone through. I think the last thing I'm worried about for Utah is getting worn down. But if there's an advantage to be had, then hopefully Baylor can take advantage of it. And if not, then that's just one other thing that you chalk up as to something that should be a certain way that's not for whatever reason. And, again, I think today will be very telling in how they respond, how they take advantage of whatever advantage they might have, whether that's the heat or it's home field. You hope to have those things matter. I mean, that's why they matter. It's why it matters to have this game here as opposed to having it, at Utah. You grew up in the heat. You were formed by it, all of that. Utah was not. So, yeah, those things should play a factor. But then again, Utah is not a team that's coming in that's going to be flaky and all of a sudden it gets hot and, they don't know how to react to it. So, be nice if that works, but I wouldn't bank on it if you're Baylor.
All right, here's also a comment from BC. The Bears gotta. That doesn't mean they will, but got to come out vicious today. Go Big 12. Kim Coulter's checked in. He's up in Lubbock for their game tonight against Oregon, another team in the Big 12 that has to bounce back after the loss last week in Laramie to Wyoming on the road in double overtime. The Big 12 today, the game that is the headliner in the country, but also a part of the Big 12, is the one that is in Tuscaloosa tonight at 6 o'clock. It's on ESPN, Alabama hosting Texas. Here are the other games for your knowledge for the day. Kansas State at home. They should roll to go 2-0 against Troy. Also, Brigham Young against Southern Utah. And along with that, you have Iowa State, Iowa. What's the over-under on how this game finishes? And I know Iowa scored 24 last week or whatever it was.
I think the first one to 7 wins. No, I think both offenses will probably be a little bit better, but yeah, it's not going to be. I mean, it's going to be exactly what you think. I mean, if you're looking for TCU Colorado again, if that's the kind of football you like, don't do Iowa State.
Yeah, I agree. So there's that. Craig, your thoughts about Iowa State? They had a nice win to open the year. They should have won the game, but Northern Iowa's caused them trouble and others early on in the year before.
Yeah, well, it wasn't too much trouble last week, so nice to get that under your belts after the offseason from heck or hell in some cases for the state of Iowa. It'd be interesting, both those teams affected by the gambling issues and losing players as a result of that. Most notably Iowa State with their starting running back and quarterback, but they got to win in game number 1 regardless. Game number 2, be huge to beat Iowa for a second year in a row for Matt Campbell. He only did it for the first time last year. Didn't really matter in the long run because they weren't very good after that, but it was a big deal at the time. And I think given the offseason that you've had, Iowa's had one that's been a little topsy-turvy as well, but focusing more on the Iowa State side of things, if you win a second Cy-Hawk trophy in a row, that'd be massive for Campbell and their confidence moving forward. And, I think they are a team that's playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because of the gambling issue and the fact that it kind of turned their season upside down in so many ways. But, now that the games have started, they've got a great opportunity here.
All right, so the rest of the schedule, Garrett, thank you very much. There's that SMU game this evening against Oklahoma. SMU now part of the ACC. We had their director of athletics, Rick Hart, on earlier in the week. Oklahoma winning 73-0. West Virginia lost to Penn State. They'll have Duquesne, so a chance for them to kind of get going with a win today.
Well, this is their only time where they're going to be favored in the next month.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have that Pittsburgh and Cincinnati game, which I look forward to that when that game is at Pitt. Pitt's like an 8-point favorite in that one. Houston and Rice in the battle of the city of Houston in that one there. Also, Dana Holgerson in a nice win to open up the year against UTSA 17-14. You have that Houston-Rice game. Then you have, of course, Texas Tech trying to bounce back from Wyoming after the loss to Wyoming at home against Oregon. Oregon put up an 81 spot against Portland State and just rolled it up against them. Bo Nix, former Oregon quarterback, Tyler Shuck, of course, the quarterback for Texas Tech. There's that Texas-Alabama game that's going to get huge mention. I'm intrigued by this one. UCF with a win to open up the year, and they play Boise State on the road, TCU and Nicholls State, and then at the bottom, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, a late night game with a 9:30 kickoff. Those are the games in the Big 12 around the country today. Here's a note from Grayson Grunhafer on Utah. They are 35-13 since 2019. 12 of those losses have been on the road or a neutral site. So 12 of their 13 losses since 2019 have been on the road. So, and that's probably, I don't think that's the overall would be the percentage by most teams, but they have been really dominant at home. You always want to protect your home turf, but they have been somewhat vulnerable when they are on the road.
Yeah, Grayson's the only one of us on SIGM365.com that picked Baylor to win. He was on the show with me yesterday. He was pretty adamant that he thinks that Baylor has kind of a sleeper's advantage here. I don't know if I buy that. I'm going to have to see a lot more oomph from Baylor and a lot more, I would say maybe even entitlement from Utah. Like we're the Pac-12 champs. They just don't seem to be the kind of team that does that with Kyle Whittingham, but you never know. But yeah, Grayson is bullish on Baylor's chances for upset today.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, with all due respect, Grayson's probably the most positive guy in the world. I mean, This is the same person who predicted them to win like 12 games in the Big 12. So, all due respect, I think that, if anybody's going to probably polish this up the positive route, it would be him. And you know what? Maybe he's right as far as them being able to bounce back. But I see absolutely zero things from last week that would give me any indication from the Baylor game or the Utah game that would be the case today. That is just a blind. They'll put it all together because that's really all you can go off of. There is absolutely no evidence from last week from either one of the games these teams played in that would tell you that Baylor should win this game. Zero. So you're hoping and you're praying that they can all put it together and that there's something to that, that record of their games that they've lost have come on the road, so maybe that'll impact today. What kind of crowd even shows up today after this past week? Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully it's a rabid one because they haven't had big-time non-conference opponents here. But how much will that factor in remains to be seen. But, yeah, you hope that it does, and I hope that he's right in the long run.
I had someone call me yesterday who's a sponsor of the show. He was talking about Baylor, and he was asking me a little bit, and he goes, he's actually, and I'm just repeating what he says. There's no reason he would say otherwise, that because of still some of the frustrations of the loss and the way things are on game day, blah, 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 that he has some of his friends that may not go just because. I mean, that's the dumbest damn thing I've ever heard in my life, if that's the case. Oh, don't go to a game because you're not real happy with the tailgating, but, you're a Baylor fan. I have to say that. It's just that's so immature in middle schoolish, I can't even get to it.
I'll say this, and this is the fandom across the country, because the only currency that they care about is you winning and you entertaining them. But part of you being able to win is the fans being there and supporting you. It's a huge advantage that you can have. So it's one of those things that is this balancing act of, how do you get to that happy medium where it can be like Lincoln, Nebraska, or College Station, Texas, or Ames, Iowa, where it does not matter, you're going to go. Like, they're just going to go. Now, part of that in some of those places is just where they are and what's going on in town, and you just go. But to get that balance of, look, you need to go because your team needs the advantage, and your team needs the advantage, so you go. Like, that, it works out. But, if you're not going to win, you're going to lose to Texas State, people are going to get mad, and then they're going to hold out like this ransom for, hey, make things better or I won't show up. So it's a really hard thing to navigate in sports.
Yeah, it's just, to me, I mean, you can do what you want. It's your money. That's fine. All right, when we come back, we have a lot to get to, including Dave Aranda, Kyle Whittingham. We'll get back to Darby Brown later in the pregame show here on KWTX. When we come back, former Baylor quarterback and radio color analyst J.J. Joe breaks down what Baylor must do, what he thinks they will do, and can they do it against Utah. This is Game Day Live.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Furno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
As we were walking out after the post-game press conference, we walked out the door at McLean Stadium, walking towards eventually our car, parking. Saw J.J. Joe, Ricky Thompson, among others, walking out as well. J.J. Joe with us on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina out today. Craig is here with me, and I'm David Smoak.
JJ, I guess if there was a bright spot, and they were hard to come by, but there were some things here and there. But I thought Blake Shapen played his heart out given the circumstances. I thought Sawyer Robertson, given the situation that he was thrown into, played really well. There were some things to clean up, of course. But what did you think of the quarterback play, and what are your thoughts as well? And now that we have confirmation that Blake Shapen's going to be out at least a couple of weeks with potentially 3 weeks or however many, but at least a couple of weeks with that MCL injury.
Yeah, it's good to have Sawyer, let him get some game in. And I was, he made a couple mistakes. I don't even count the interception on him. I mean, I think Monterey kind of floated inside on him a little bit. But the fumble, he was really just trying to make a play. So I'm glad he got some action, and now he gets to prepare for a whole week. I thought he played a fine game for a young man that hadn't, he doesn't have really this level of action. So it's gonna be tough for him. Coming in against his first start coming against a team like Utah. I thought Blake played a really, really smart game, a really good game, and he fought through. I do not question Blake's heart. I just hope, if you played and you've also seen it and just watched it, you just hope the kid isn't snake bitten here. Every time I look up, it's just something, and I'm hoping this is, like you say, it's 3 weeks. I've had an MCL in high school. It just sticks with you for a while, though. But I hope he gets back, gets healthy, and gets going. He played a fine game.
How do you attempt to get the run game going, JJ? Because it was a non-factor. We saw very little of Richard Reese, and Dominic Richardson actually had some tough runs there. But what was just kind of your assessment? I know everything problematic for the offense started up front, but if you're running the wide zone and your bread and butter is supposed to be running the football and you can't do that, well, that's obviously problematic. So how do you just sort of see all of that?
Yeah, I went back and watched it. That's a good crowd. I watched again. I was watching really the line, and early on, Texas State was taking it to our guys. I mean, like Coach said, I think they're a little wide-eyed, and I don't see how you're wide-eyed. First game of the year, you're at home, you're comfortable. But they did some things to us. They really got the penetration. We finally adjusted to it a little bit, I think, in that late in the first half into that second half. But every once in a while, man, if it wasn't a false start, first and goal from the 1, you get a false start. And we've seen this movie. We saw this movie last year. And we had that, and we couldn't overcome it. Then we had a 1st and 15. We'd have a 1st and 15 because we had another false start. And it was just like usually it was just one guy, but it was just a different guy every time. And either we were missing the block at the point of attack, we weren't sealing back to the mic. Number 0 had a great game. I forget his name, but he had a great game because he was finding the ball, and we were not sealing him. The middle linebacker there, and they got to figure out how to try to find something that works. But I really think personnel-wise, he has to find out and say, hey, look, I'm probably going to have to find the fastest guys I have on this team, put them on the field for right now, go to one tight end at the most, and then I'm going to have to try to give Sawyer an opportunity to put the ball around the field and then let him run some, because I think it's going to be a while before we're able to really line up and just move people.
JJ, I think you've probably mentioned a couple positives here and there, but I mean, to try and put a positive note on it. I mean, look, reality is reality, but what are some good things, if any, that you saw that can potentially be built upon, or things that you can take into week number 2 here?
Yeah, I really like the way our receivers played. I didn't like they had separation. I think that the I think that Texas State does a good job of scheming up some pressures on us and then sometimes just beating our guy. But I thought the tight end, I knew Dabney was a solid player, so I wasn't surprised by him. But Keyshawn Jackson had a solid game. Josh Burton, Hal Presley had a couple monster catches. I really like those receivers. They were young last year. This year, you can tell that group is matured. So it's like I said, like this year, your line is not as experienced as last year, but your receivers now are showing you that maybe, just maybe, that is the crew that you have to lean on. So while I understand where we want to go offensively, early in the season, right now, you may have to say, hey, I got to put my best 4 receivers on the field and have them out there a little bit more than I normally would, and then hope that I can figure out a way to start getting my offensive line up to speed. So I like those receivers. I did see that. I like Sawyer that he got some action. I thought Dominic Richardson ran really well. That was good to see. On defense, I was a little disappointed, to be frank with you, because we weren't getting pressure. And if you ask me, and I said this, I think I wrote this in an article, Matt Jones, he is lost at the second level. I don't know what it is, but at the second level, we moved him off the ball. That guy has too much talent. He's NFL talent. But you got to tell him, go get the quarterback. And I think somehow we got to figure out, since we can't get to the quarterback, Matt Jones can get to the quarterback. We got to figure out how to get him to the quarterback, because we've struggled for that now. We've seen it for almost 2 seasons.
Hey, man, thank you very much. We'll see you Saturday. It will absolutely be an interesting game if Baylor has heart in it, and I'm sure they do. But, man, they gotta figure it out, because they got a ball of razor blades coming into town to Waco with Kyle Whittingham and Utah. J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback and also color analyst on Baylor Radio.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
In Waco, Texas, we value education. We're proud of Baylor University, McLennan Community College, and TSTC. At Jeff Hunter Toyota, we share these Waco values. It's how we serve our customers better and provide the highest quality service. In Waco, this is who we are, and this is what we drive. Shop Jeff Hunter Toyota. Toyota quality, Waco values.
Home Place Interiors. From designer drapes to custom total installation, quality area rugs to a wide selection of floor covering, Home Place Interiors has you covered. With over 40 years of experience, you can trust John Proctor and his knowledgeable staff to help you with your next home project. Home Place Interiors, where we do business the old-fashioned way, on a handshake.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Watch KWTX News at 4.
Utah football coach Kyle Whittingham with us, 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak. And, Coach, I got to start off with this. I love your style, love the personality. I love the personality of your team. You have a master's in educational psychology and leadership. How much does that help you when it comes to coaching football and athletes?
Well, I guess some. I mean, it's been so many years since I got that degree, I can hardly remember the curriculum. But, in order to be a head football coach, you got to have, some psychology to you. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And so I think that does help and play into it. But, again, that was decades ago, literally, that I got that degree.
Coach Aranda seems to have some of the psychology in the way he coaches a team. I know that Ludwig, your offensive coordinator, was on the same staff at Wisconsin. How much have you run into Coach Aranda?
Not a whole lot, in person. I know, I've observed him, and I know of all the good things that he's done, in his stops along the way, and excellent defensive coach. Good friend of mine, Gary Anderson, was the head coach at Utah State, and Coach Aranda was up there with him as his DC. And so, I follow his career and I'm very impressed by what he's done, but haven't had a lot of personal interaction with Coach Aranda.
You yourself have had to deal with the Cam Rising injury at quarterback, and now Baylor does not have Blake Shapen. He's out for at least 2 or 3 weeks, and Sawyer Robertson will start this week. Is it easier or harder to prepare for a game when there's a quarterback change because of whatever reason?
I think it's probably sixes, unless you don't know who to prepare for. If there's a couple, 2 guys that you're not sure which one's going to play, that makes it a little more difficult. But if you're fairly certain you know which one's going to play, then it puts the focus a little narrower for you, and you're able to get ready and really not very problematic.
You had the game Thursday, and so you have an extra couple of days to heal from that. I know you've got bumps and bruises at various positions, but how much does that in any way help when you have another game, no matter who you're playing the next week?
I think it helps a bit, and we typically start off on Thursdays. That's been our history. We've had far more Thursday opening games than Saturday, and so we're used to that routine and having that extra couple days to heal up, regroup, get your guys fresh. And so I think that's been a benefit for us. And like I said, that's been our MO for a lot of years now.
Do you know much at all about Sawyer Robertson?
We've done our homework. Big, strong kid. Obviously Mississippi State transfer from the state of Texas, went to high school in the state of Texas. So we have done our homework, and he looks like he's a good athlete, and so we'll have to prepare accordingly.
Is when you see what Baylor went through, and everybody has days, but they got punched up pretty badly at home against Texas State, and that was a shock for a lot of people. But does that, in a way, does that even come into play with the preparation of your team emotionally or mentally on coming to here? Or is it, hey, listen, we know what they've been before. We've got to be prepared for everything?
Definitely the latter, and that's the exact conversation we had in our team meeting last Friday. Is hey, we're not going to see the same Baylor team that you're watching on tape. I mean, they're smart coaching staff. They're going to regroup. They're going to figure things out. They're going to fix deficiencies. And we told our guys, you better be ready to have to play your best football to have a chance to get a win.
How ironic is it that you're playing them? It's obviously the first time ever for Utah and Baylor. You're never played before, and here you are playing them this year with the changes coming up next year with the Big 12 adding you among 3 others.
Yeah, that was ironic to say the least, and they're on the schedule next year as well. That's when they come to us, and I don't know how they're going to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
Not them being Baylor, but the Big 12. As far as, are they going to make that a conference game, or are they going to keep it a non-conference game? I guess that's being deliberated right now, and they're trying to figure out all those details. But it happened to us with 2 schools. I mean, BYU, who's a team that we've played.
Yep.
Almost on a yearly basis, and has been a great rivalry, is in the same boat where we have them on the schedule next year as a non-conference, so we'll have to see how the Big 12 handles all that.
You're a BYU graduate. We know about the rivalry with Brigham Young and Utah, and now back in the same conference. Is that something you look forward to?
You know what? I haven't really thought much about it at all, to be honest with you. We're just concerned with this year and our Pac-12 schedule and finishing our time in the Pac-12 the right way. But, we've played them almost every year. There have been some breaks in the action last year and this year being one of those breaks. But it's been pretty much an ongoing thing, even when we were, when they were independent and we were in the Pac-12. And so that's something that we're used to. It just now has conference implications, and will take on more meaning because of that.
Your father played the game. You played the game. He also coached for a couple of decades. How much of that is in your blood?
Oh, a ton. In fact, as a former defensive coordinator, he was a great defensive coach, and all my philosophies, techniques, fundamentals, that I employed as a D coordinator come directly from him. And the best defensive coach I've ever been around. I've been around a lot of good ones, and I can't say enough good things about what he taught me. And like I said, the defensive aspect of me is a direct extension of what I learned from him.
What was the best advice, or I know there was a ton and you just soaked it all in, but what was perhaps one of the best pieces of advice he gave you about coaching?
Be consistent every day. Don't make sure the players know what to expect when they come in the building. You've got to have the same approach. Players thrive on structure and discipline, and if they know what to expect on a consistent basis, day in and day out, then that's when you're going to get your best results.
Kyle Whittingham, head coach at Utah, with us on 365 Sports. I told you earlier, I love the way your team plays. Somebody over during the offseason, and this was when there was a lot of speculation about who's going to end up where, and my goodness, that lingered forever. But the Big 12 is about to get or have a team in their conference that is like playing a ball of razor blades. Do you like that comparison?
I've never heard that comparison, but I'll take it. I mean, we pride ourselves on being a physical football team and bringing the physicality every single week, and I guess a ball of razor blades might be applicable. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, and it is. You talked about being consistent every day, and here you are. Isn't that the way you do play as both sides of the football?
We hope to. I mean, that's our objective is to be at that same level every week, be ready to play. You only get 12 of these opportunities that are guaranteed. You know, if you do well in those 12, you're going to get some postseason play. But these opportunities and these games are too precious to squander any of them, and that's something that we harp on. Is no regrets whatsoever. You prepare the way you're supposed to prepare every single week and go into every single game with complete preparation and readiness to play.
Do you like the way college football has changed dramatically, really, ever since the COVID with the realignment? That's always been in play, but that's even more full throttle. The transfer portal, NIL, has that take some time for you or you think coaches in general to get used to?
Well, it has for me, but you got to embrace it, and you got to roll with the change and be able to continue to just adapt, I guess is the word. Now, do I like it? I grew up with college football being the same for years and years and years, and now all of a sudden it's upheaval seemingly every year. And so, like I said, you just got to deal with it. The transfer portal certainly brought a huge different dynamic to the game. NIL, conference realignment. I mean, we're in such a predatory era of college football, and it's not done yet. I can tell you that. I'm going to tell you the next 2 to 5, 6 years, there's going to be another seismic shift, and it may be the final one, when everything goes to super conferences, 1 or 2 super conferences, and breaks away from the NC2A and has their own playoff system and all that. I think that's on the horizon.
What was it like not knowing? You knew this year, Pac-12, and what a great weekend, 12-0 start, and USC won the week before. Was it something that kept you not up, but bothered you that you didn't quite know the future of where Utah would be until finally the decisions came down?
No, not at all. I thought that we had a good enough body of work, and we're a big enough brand and had done enough things that we would have a landing spot somewhere. I just felt that when all the dust settled, University of Utah was going to be in a good place and playing in a power conference and so no, didn't lose any sleep over that. And as it turned out, that's exactly what happened.
What do you expect Saturday against Baylor and also the atmosphere at McLean Stadium?
Well, I've never been there, and so I'm looking forward to it. But in fact, I played with Walter Abercrombie.
Oh,
he's a big name back there. I know that. We were in the Hula Bowl together way back in 82, I can't remember what year it was, but we were seniors together and on that in the Hula Bowl, and I believe we played in the Japan Bowl together as well. I think we were both on that trip. So anyway, got to know Walter a little bit, and that was intriguing, to hear about his, talking about Baylor, and then Coach Taff, of course. He was a guy that I had some interaction with, and him and Coach Lavelle Edwards, who coached me in college, were the best of friends. And so I've known Baylor from afar, but never been there. I know they got a beautiful new stadium. Well, I guess it's not that new anymore, a few years old, but it's supposed to be a great setting, and I know that they're a physical outfit. Coach Aranda is very committed to defense, and Coach Grimes, I know him. He was right down the road here in Provo at BYU for several years, and so there's familiarity, but never been there, and looking forward to the experience.
My last question is, Cam Rising, no matter his situation this week or whatever, is he the epitome of what you want in a football player at Utah?
Without a doubt, he's an absolute warrior. He's the alpha dog of the football team. I mean, he is the guy that leads the leaders. Everybody looks to him. He sets the bar, and then he demands that everybody live up to that. Those expectations that he sets, and you couldn't ask for any better personality or leadership from any position, but especially the quarterback position.
I know the week is slammed anytime. Kyle, thank you for your time. Kyle Whittingham, appreciate it, Coach, for your time. Utah head football coach on 365 Sports.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
What sets Hillcrest Dental Care apart is our vision of how we want to care for our patients to improve their health and their quality of life, whether it's the teeth, the gums, the bite, or the smile.
Because I didn't feel anything at all. When I woke up there, I had everything done. I go to the restaurant to eat, and the waitress said this, "You got new teeth." So they noticed it too. If you want something done that is good and permanent, this is the place to go.
I don't know what any of this stuff is.
Is the Jeep not starting?
Token, can you please come help?
Y'all call for a tow?
Yes.
Y'all call for a tow?
Yes.
Call Tow King 24 hours a day for all your emergency roadside needs.
Hail damage to your roof can be costly to your home, so why not protect yourself now? Get your roof repaired or replaced by Central Texas's most trusted roofer, Centex Roof Systems. Our team will evaluate your damage and get you a quote fast so we can repair your roof quickly and efficiently. After the storm, call the name you can trust. Call Centex Roof Systems today for your quote or visit us online at centexrs.com. Your hometown roofer, Centex Roof Systems. God bless Texas.
Welcome back into Game Day Live. I'm Garrett Ross with today's Keys to the Game presented by Richard Carr Motors. Last week, Baylor started off the season 0-1. They did not live up to expectations as they welcome in Texas State. The Bobcats were able to control the game primarily in the trenches, and they were able to cruise to a 42-31 victory. Up next, you have new Big 12 foe coming in, Utah, the number 14th team in the nation. Utah came out last week and they got a sound win over Florida, 24-11. And it's going to be really intriguing to see how Baylor can match up with the Utes on Saturday. Today's first key to the game is pretty simple. Protect the quarterback. Last week, Baylor was unable to do this. They gave up 5 sacks. Ultimately, Blake Shapen gets injured. He has an MCL injury. He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. And, you know, early on, you heard the fans, you heard the crowd. The Sawyer Robertson chance. Well, guess what? You're going to get to see Sawyer Robertson, and you're going to get to see him for a few weeks. This is a situation where Baylor has got to get tough. Utah's defense is extremely physical. When you look at safety Cole Bishop, this is a guy who was all over the field last week for the Utes. He ended up with 11 tackles, was able to get a forced fumble, and he also got a sack as well. Baylor cannot let him get loose. I mean, you've got to get the run game established. You've got to protect Sawyer Robertson, or else it is going to be a long season. Third down situations you're going to have to see as well. But that's going to be the first key. Up next, Baylor has got to get off the field in late downs. If you go back and look last week, they were really terrible on third down situations. And when it came to the defensive side, Texas State was really able to have their way with Baylor on third and fourth downs. They were not scared anytime they were in a position where it was questionable to punt. They never even thought about punting. They said, we're going to run right through Baylor's defense, and they were able to do that effectively. You cannot do that this week. Last week, if you go and look, Utah struggled in situations. They were only able to convert 3 third downs of their own, and Florida had their way with Utah as well. So that is an area where Baylor can take advantage of it. Where Baylor can take advantage of the scheme, run the ball. I mean, it's pretty simple. Line up, run the ball, but you've got to move. But Baylor has got to find a way to get off the field late in downs, or it's going to be a long night for the Bears. Finally, our final key to the game, test the secondary. Why not test the secondary? Baylor was able to have some success when they got the blocks going, and that's the thing. You go back to key number 1. You have got to block. If Baylor is able to block and give Sawyer Robertson time, we know the young man is efficient. You just look at the throw he had to Hal Presley right down the sideline, right in the breadbasket. Hal Presley was able to make a play. Look, Graham Mertz threw for over 330 yards against Utah, okay? Graham Mertz is not as good as Sawyer Robertson. Graham Mertz is not as good as Blake Shapen. And if you have players like Keytron Jackson who can go up and get the ball. You have Hal Presley who can go make big plays. Jonah Burton balled out last week. If you give Sawyer Robertson time, Baylor can extend the passing game. I mean, when you look, Cole Bishop, we talked about all the tackles he had.
Well, that's because they were loading up in the box. Florida had no threat in the passing game last week, and Utah loaded the box and were able to compress them. I mean, Baylor can stretch the field. If Baylor can stretch the field, you look at Drake Dabney. Drake Dabney had one of the best performances as a tight end in Baylor history last week. They have the weapons there. It all comes down to time. And I think Baylor early and on can stretch the field against Utah. You get them on their heels, and then you open up the running game, and we get that wide zone scheme moving the way that Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos plan. That's going to do it for today's Keys to the Game. Stay right here. We have more Game Day Live coming up next.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Furno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Game Day Live. KWTX and 365 Sports. Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Craig Smoak. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. The Herd Center was opened on the Baylor campus earlier today. The opening of the Herd Center, which, of course, is Mark and Paula Herd, and it was a huge deal. And here's a picture. Paula Herd on campus. That's Bill Gates, who was also there for the ribbon cutting. As Baylor, as they continue to grow, everybody, all the facilities, you know, the pavilion's getting closer and closer by the end of the year to opening up right across just catty corner with McLean Stadium. The Ops Center, the football Ops Center, and there also was the Herd opening. Jason Cook on Sikkim365.com put up the drone show, so to speak, of the opening of the Herd Center right there off I-35.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. Who's that guy, right?
Yeah. No. That's wild that Bill Gates is here. I hope that he enjoys his time in the 254. And, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what Bill can do here, but I hope he has a good time.
Yeah, yesterday opened, not today.
Yeah.
Today's it's like 10 o'clock right now on a game day. So yeah, it was yesterday that they were there. But point stands that he's dating Paula Hurd. He's a very rich man. Some people like him, some people hate him. But random and I guess kind of cool, so to speak, that he was here. I think the way he could really endear himself, although he may not be able to do that for everybody, would be to cut like $100 million check and throw some money Baylor's way. I'm sure they would be thrilled with that. But, cool. I mean, that's a very famous person that was here yesterday, so that's cool. Don't know if they're staying for the game or not, but, maybe they'll get a donation out of it.
All right, so it has been a week where a lot of people, Baylor, of course, angry, frustrated, I mentioned, about a lot of different things, but obviously the football game getting – Texas State really just bigger, better, faster, stronger. Craig tweeted that out early in the game last Saturday. But there's more to get to. We've kind of gone over the Big 12. The games that are the focus games this week, Kansas winning 34-23 over Illinois. Jalen Daniels, 277 yards passing. Devin Neal had 120 yards rushing, and they beat Illinois 34-21. Here are a couple of games for us to touch on. Oregon at Texas Tech is one. And then, of course, the Texas game against Alabama. I'm intrigued by the Pittsburgh game against Cincinnati, UCF at Boise State. But let's get into Alabama and Texas tonight in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I think that's going to be maybe the most intriguing game of the day. I mean, and it should be. I mean, it's two really highly ranked teams. But, this is a Texas team that's trying to take a step that they've not been able to take in a very long time. And if they can beat Alabama. Like, if they lose to Alabama, it doesn't change their goal of winning the Big 12. If they beat Alabama, it doesn't change their goal. Like, it doesn't change any of that. Like, they're still there. This game, as far as winning the conference, doesn't matter. But if they win this game, then it makes you maybe think that they can do something beyond winning the Big 12. Now, granted, it's just the second game, but these are the games that they've not been able to win in the last few years. You think about LSU or this, and they always usually play a pretty big non-conference game. They've not been able to do that and sustain the success throughout the Big 12 season. But if they can beat Alabama in Bryant-Denny, that might, make you think like, okay, they might be able to really do something beyond special this year.
Yeah, they looked okay last week against Rice. Really had a big third quarter. Defense looked good, but I think this is all about Quinn Ewers in some ways. I mean, you're big-time, five-star, millionaire quarterback. You got him for a reason. You got him to beat Alabama. You got him to beat Ohio State. You got him to beat Oklahoma. You got him to win those big games for you, and Quinn Ewers has been fine, but I don't think we've seen anything from him yet, have we? Unless I'm just missing something from the past year where you're like, that was the Quinn Ewers show. That's why he's going to be the number one overall quarterback in the draft. I feel like we hear he's going to be a top prospect, but we don't really see, regularly like we maybe do with other top guys of like him being the reason why, him being the guy, him being the star. I feel like he's a pretty good player amongst a sea of pretty good players, right? Surrounded by NFL talent, NFL arm, NFL this and that, but still some things in his game he needs to work on, like the deep ball. I think this would be a huge day for him to actually connect on a couple of deep throws. That's probably one of the main critiques, but there's not a lot of others because he's got a great skill set. I just don't feel like he's really – outside of just he's a star because we know him, but he's not a star that's become a star because of how he's played. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is one of those days where you go like, this is a game for him to show on the field as a player why he's the star with millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of followers and all those types of things. But yeah, I mean, Alabama's where I lean, being at home, but they've got question marks of their own. Can Jalen Milroe throw them to a victory?
Yep.
Does he need to throw them to a victory, or can Alabama do it in other ways? It's going to be a fascinating game, and it's got a lot more to it than just the quarterbacks, but those are going to be two of the main areas because you wonder about Milroe. Like, is he ready to be the full package? And, same thing with Ewers to an extent.
Yeah, you wonder, Milroe obviously gifted and more of a threat running the ball, but can he make some clutch throws? And he's been prone to the turnover when he had an opportunity to play last year when Bryce Young was out. And then Ewers, I don't know if it has to be any kind of a Heisman performance, but one that's crisp and clean and maybe a drive at a certain time where he makes a big throw if they protect him. And on top of that, there are players on the Alabama secondary, in the secondary, that have been kind of dinged up since the opening game against Middle Tennessee State. We'll see. There's a little bit of this is when the receivers, Nayor and Worthy and Mitchell, could be like all at one time against Alabama on defense. Whittington, yeah, absolutely. He's one of those guys who's played for a long, long time. He's had injuries.
Sanders. I mean, they got weapons galore. So yeah, I mean, Ewers has no shortage of options. I wonder about their run game because we saw a little bit of that, but it's brand new without Bijan Robinson there. So yeah, that'll be a fascinating game, and I think it's gonna many ways, depending on who plays better at quarterback, that could tip the scales one way or the other.
All right, when we come back, Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. It has been a week of soul-searching throughout that football program from everybody within it. The coaches and the players and more have not seen Dave Aranda under this kind of intense heat in a long time since he took over, even with the disappointing first year from 2020 and COVID, and even last year when the season kind of slipped away from them, losing in the bowl game up on an absolutely brutal day in Fort Worth. And this is 365 Sports, Game Day Live on KWTX.
If you like saving money, you'll love Du Bois Furniture's Labor Day sale. It starts with savings of up to 60% off furniture store-wide. But that's not all. Save even more with secret in-store discounts or special financing now at Du Bois Furniture.
Shelley's business needs to be more efficient, and she heard hybrid meeting would help. She called Asbel Electronics, and we took her vision and created a space that was easy to use and maximized live interaction in the office while fully interacting with customers and remote workers. Pastor Dave wanted to live stream his Sunday services, so he called Asbel Electronics. We implemented technologies that brought the in-church experience to the living room while minimizing volunteers' workflow. Let us make your vision come true. Contact Asbel Electronics for all your professional audio-visual needs.
When the sun rises over Central Texas, we know there's work to be done. So if you need to dig, haul, cut, lift, mow, or anything in between, your local Bobcat dealers in Waco and Temple have all the equipment you'll need to get the job done right. We sell, we rent, and we've got parts and service to keep you up and running, no matter where the job takes you. There's work to do. Let's get it done.
Now during Du Bois Furniture's Labor Day mattress sale, get a great night's sleep on a new mattress for less. Raise your sleep comfort and save up to $800 on Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Tempur-Pedic adjustable sets. Now at Du Bois Furniture.
You can count on KWTX, the weather authority.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda with me, David Smoak on 365 Sports. Since the Sugar Bowl win, nice little segment of a part of the season last year, now a 5-game losing streak. Have you as a program, in your opinion, taken advantage of that high in the best team Baylor's ever had?
No, I appreciate the question and appreciate the time we have here. I look at it as, the way that I would look at these last couple games, if, we bring up last year, it would be, the opportunity to get fully aligned, to get the right people on the bus, so to speak, and the difference that it makes when you have that and when you don't. And, I think even with 21, we were kind of, I don't know how aligned it was, even then. And so the players and everything else kind of made it right. And so then I think moving forward to this year is the alignment with coaches and players. Everyone's on the same page. I just feel it's just it's a different feel. I know that the results on Saturday night for sure do not show it. But I'm still very optimistic and excited about what we can accomplish, knowing how aligned we are.
Is there any chance you may have misjudged recruiting or who you brought in?
No, appreciate that. I think it's one of the things that's important to me with recruiting is to bring in people that are just a fit for Baylor, and so that has really been the number one thing, more so than really probably anything else, that they have to be able to fit. And I just think in the past, I think in 2020, not completely knowing Baylor and recruiting with a couple weeks and everything else and working specifically for the best player, I think that was harmful to our school and our team. And I just think that it takes a special person to really kind of get into the culture here and to be a vibrant part of this community. And so I look at that number one. And so we have a really strong kind of review and consideration for that. And then we get into the player part. And so as far as that is, I feel really strong about that.
But you have to win. I know you don't want to do anything to win because it's gotten programs in troubles in the past, but having a bunch of nice guys and a fit, you have to still win, right?
Correct. And I feel like we will. Yeah.
So in 2017, when you were at LSU, you lost to Troy.
Right.
And it was like, oh my God, what happened? Then you bounced back and won, I think, 5 of the next 6 with Alabama being the only loss. Can you draw upon that analogy or that example right now?
I think you can. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think you can. I think you can see that when there's failure, there's always an opportunity. And I think if you use it the right way, and there's not, from coaches and players, personal agendas and kind of self-protection and blaming and me versus you. If there's not that, then there's an opportunity to kind of dig a little bit deeper and get to the truth of things and kind of connect on those things. And so I'm confident that that's what's going to happen this week.
So you play Utah. We know how good they are. Someone explained to me one time that they were like a ball of razor blades. And I know they even played without their quarterback, and you're about to play without your starter. What makes them so good? Because it seems to me that would be the style and personality you would like for your football team.
That's right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, they play physical. They play violent. They play fast. And so of all of the things, the biggest disappointment was in that we were not that. And, I had every indication that that's what it was going to be, but it wasn't.
Was Texas State more talented than you?
I don't think so. I think I know they're a talented team, and I give them all the respect. I mean, I thought that they did a great job with their offensive game plan. I thought defensive game plan, they were able to manipulate our wide zone and cut it up and get balls to cut back. They were blitzing into it and slanting into it, which would, in the past here, it has been something that offensively, I think Grimy and Eric would tell you they would invite it. And this was not something that was seen before, and this was something we just had too hard of a time adjusting to, and really didn't be able to fully adjust to it until the third quarter. And it was too late by that point. And so big failure on our part, And so I thought they had a really good plan, but I thought, there's good talent there, but we've got good talent here too. We have to play greener and faster and more violent for all of it to come out.
You've mentioned that this is something you've talked to Tony Dungy about this, that, man, when you were 12-2, you were a genius. You were the Jedi. Everyone loved the way you reacted or didn't. And then when things go bad, it's like he's not vocal enough, or he doesn't have passion within his gut. Does this challenge you right now?
No. I appreciate that, though. I generally try to stay away from all of it. And so if that's if that is what's being talked about, then it's certainly not new, and I can appreciate it because I think everyone, if you're not that way, then that is such a foreign thing. And why is he that way? And why isn't he more like a normal, this or that? So I totally get it. And, I just, winning helps that. So that's what we need to do.
Your offensive line obviously had a very difficult game running, pass protecting. I think I want to make sure in the post game you even said we couldn't protect him.
Correct.
So what changes when you're playing a team that's even better?
Yeah. Well, we have to improve,
Can you do that in a week?
We can. Now, I think there's also just what's hard about going into that first game is there's always things you know and you can improve on. But then the weeks leading up to it, you see the improvement. And so it is not as if there wasn't blemishes or there wasn't, bad stretches of play or execution that wasn't great. But there was kind of, an upswing or, hey, we're getting better, we're getting the hang of it. And so then as you go into that first game, you're thinking, all right, we're going to take this step. All right, we're going to come out. It's been kind of, going to that far left corner, I guess. And so here's another step in that direction. And obviously Saturday was completely completely the other way. And so to get back on that trajectory of improvement, I think that's what we can control. And then with that, I think knowing that what we completely know now and having that into the game plan and minimize all the instances that for sure showed up, I think would be a smart thing to do.
Matthew Pallage is like a rising star in the coaching profession. We know what he brings to the table, but that was his first game. Do you feel like there was anything that overwhelmed him?
No, I appreciate that. I thought Matt kept great energy throughout. I thought he was on the sideline making adjustments. The kids were completely, when I go over there and I'm seeing their eyes, there wasn't, I've been in games like this before where there's a glazed over look and it's like, whatever you say is I never felt that from them. And that's a tribute to Matt, I think, and just the belief and the connection he has with them. So I'm way appreciative of that. I think that, I do feel that a first game for a new coordinator or a new coach in any way is always going to be the first game. There's just going to be a lot to learn from and to grow from and to get better at, and calls that he wish he had back or thoughts that he wish he would have gone another way. So I think that's there for sure. But I don't think that's anything out of the ordinary. And I think those are areas I can help with. I just feel really good about Matt. I feel good about that side of the ball. We're so much better than what we showed. And, I'm looking forward to the next time out.
You mentioned getting involved. Do you have to be more involved now? Were you that involved Saturday night?
Appreciate that. Yeah, my involvement's been more on defense. I've spent time both with offense and with defense, and so there's a good amount of time that I'm involved. I think this particular week I'm involved quite a bit, just because I know Andy so well and have scrimmaged against him and all the spring games and fall camps and all of that at Wisconsin. And then along with, our performance on Saturday. So there's a little bit more involvement right now, and I think it's needed, and I think it's probably good for everybody.
Last thing, do you feel pressure after what happened Saturday night? Is there pressure from even administration or just internal pressure or outside? You can't listen to outside noise, but all of the above.
No, I appreciate that. Today I've been asked, "Are you okay?" by 5 different people.
Well, heck, when we tried to walk in the building, you couldn't. Your security number didn't work.
I know. I thought they already kicked me out. But no, I don't know. And I had to be honest with you, Smokey. Maybe I should. I don't. I feel I've been an assistant under coaches that I know have felt the pressure. And I don't know. That's not something I want to be a part of. And so I think there's another way of doing it. And I really want to be true to that. And I realize that of all of it, winning is the most important thing. And so we're totally focused on that. And it doesn't mean, because there's not, banging doors and slamming chairs that no one cares or any of that. Like to try to do it our way and really get this win. I know everybody wants it, and I feel like everybody needs it.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda on 365 Sports.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
I've known Tony now for about 9 years, which is about the time I've been a minister here at the Church of Christ in Groesbeck. I've known his son for a while, but I did not know his son was now moving into the business with him. And it was great interacting with him. He's a young man, and he's going to do his dad proud with this business. This is just a great roof. It's going to do us good for a long time. And we're glad to have Centex Roof Systems involved in making this possible for us.
God bless Texas.
At Dr. Smiley, you're always our top priority. Dr. Lee, Dr. Lim, and the friendly staff are committed to delivering exceptional and professional care in general, family, cosmetic, and emergency dental services. Get $2,699 implant, abutment, crown, 3D CBCT scan, and consultation with IV sedation available. Dr. Smiley accepts Medicaid and most dental insurance. Call Dr. Smiley today at 254-732-2606 and book your appointment now.
ABC believes everyone deserves the unwavering love of a pet. First-time and under-resourced pet owners need info and affordable vet care like spay-neuter. These lifelong benefits reduce euthanasia and keep pets and families together, especially when life is hard. ABC is the heart of the solution. To save the lives of more pets, our goal is to cover 24 veterinary shifts at $1,000 each.
It is Game Day Live on KWTX and 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak, Greg Smoak, Paul Catalina. We go straight to McLean Stadium. And Darby Brown with us on the Game Day Live pregame show as she joined us earlier in the show. Darby, thanks for your time. Things are starting to fill in a little bit. We do know for sure Cam Rising is out, the starting quarterback for Utah. Bryson Barnes will start. There's Josh Furlong. He covers Utah. Darby now with us from McLean Stadium. And Darby, anything from when the last time we spoke with you that kind of pops in your mind and just your thoughts? We aren't going to do predictions ourselves. I'm not asking you to do that, but your thoughts about what happens today.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough my morning show crew asked me to do that earlier, which I was not prepared to say my honest take on that. But anyways, right now I can tell you the quarterbacks are really right here behind me. So you can see Sawyer taking some pregame snaps right here, getting warmed up. And so you got a good view of that right behind me. Feeling the energy. I will say it's pretty empty in here. I know we have about 45 minutes, but hopefully it starts to fill in with it. So a little bit of a better atmosphere. But biggest thing right now is that the QB1 for the day is out here getting warmed up right behind me and looking locked in.
Darby, obviously no Cam Rising, it looks like today for Utah. I know that's on the other side of the field. I guess it's good for Baylor that he's not coming back, but Bryson Barnes played really well last week. What do you think that means for Baylor and Utah today?
Yeah, I mean, I think they proved that they could go in their minds. I think they can go. They think they can go without Cam Rising today and be just fine. And I think so too. Honestly, I think that the backup did a great job, and even their third string. I think I'm gonna have to move here because there's a situation going on behind me. Anyways, I think the third string looks good as well, and I know they're going to have some packages for him too. So I think that Utah proved that they could get it done last week without Cam Rising, and I feel like they're pretty confident they could do that again here, against Baylor.
Obviously, Darby, we don't know what the crowd turnout's going to be like. You hope that it'll be, a good showing, especially considering the opponent coming into town. But how important do you think it is just for the Baylor fan base and even the team as well, that just have a strong performance and one that they can be excited about regardless of the result later on?
Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, this is week 2. Week 1, very disappointing loss. This is week 2. There's still a lot of season ahead. And if they can sort of turn it around today and show the fans that maybe last week was a bit of a fluke, we're moving forward, this is a great opportunity. I mean, it is a tough game, and obviously you got to bounce back in a big way. But if you do bounce back, that's going to say a lot moving forward, and they can really spin it all around here early on, which would do a lot for the Baylor community.
Darby, you do a great job. Thank you so much for your time. Darby Brown, KWTX from McLean Stadium, just after 11 o'clock kickoff. It's going to be Utah and Baylor. Utah in the top 20. Baylor thought or maybe expected at some point to be in the top 25, but they've got a lot of work to do. But they have those opportunities in front of them with Utah today and in a couple of weeks against Texas, no matter what they do against Alabama. All right, everybody on the site, Sikkim365.com, but Grayson picked Utah to win the game, and I think most of the scores were anywhere from 31-20, 31-17. I don't think anyone had it completely out of hand. Paul, you go first.
Yeah, I think they'll avail themselves better this week than they did last week as far as intensity goes, but I just don't think there's anything that we saw last week that leads me to think that they're going to beat a team in Utah that is much further down the road than they are developmentally, fundamentally, every kind of way you want to say it.
It's so hard to peg like exact scores. I don't really enjoy that, because I don't know. I have a hard time kind of, knowing, especially as early as week 2, like how good is an offense, how good is a defense with such a small sample size. But I think Utah's going to be able to score. I don't trust Baylor's defense right now. I think Sawyer Robertson will have a nice day. I just really hope they can keep him healthy. That's my biggest thing out of the entire day is just keep Sawyer Robertson healthy and show some progress team-wise, but I have to go Utah. There is nothing, again, that indicates that Baylor should win today other than just the surprise of college football, but I'm not buying into that right now.
Yeah, because no one expected Texas State to beat Baylor, and they did it straight up, and they were the better team that day on the field. I feel like Utah, it's a program under Kyle Whittingham, who was there as an assistant for a long, long time. Had a chance to visit with him earlier this week, which we shared with you. They're not a team that beats themselves. I'm not. Most teams try not to be that way, but they just don't throw up on themselves. You don't see them just spitting it up. Now, Baylor has to create some turnovers, get a lucky break, a muff punt or something like that to maybe give them that extra possession and perhaps the field position. But taking the ball and going up and down the field, maybe Sawyer Robertson could do that. Maybe he can bring some electricity. Maybe he can bring some big plays. And maybe because he's the backup, everybody around him just goes, not like they weren't all in last week, but it did not appear to be that way. If Baylor wins the game, Paul, quickly, what has to happen?
They keep Sawyer Robertson from getting hit in the face over and over and over and over again.
Craig?
They get 3 turnovers. They get to the quarterback. They block way better than they did last week. They're able to establish a run game. So, just nothing too, hard, I guess.
Yeah, they're going to have to get some things that fall their way. And again, I think they'll have to have Utah kind of create their own turnover with Utah having a mistake here and there. Maybe they're a completely different team than what we saw last Saturday night against Texas State. That remains to be seen. Thanks to everybody, our sponsors. Thanks to Josh Young and those at KWTX. Thanks to Darby Brown and Garrett Ross. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Baylor and Utah, just after 11 o'clock. Paul will have our post-game show here on 365 Sports as soon as the game goes to 0. Have a great day. Baylor, Utah. And this is Game Day Live on KWTX.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly. Getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Gatesville RV, now featuring Woodland Park movable homes, the perfect home for destination camping and tiny home living with unmatched quality construction. And because of its size, it can help you save on your property taxes. With multiple layouts and models to choose from, featuring full kitchen, bath, and living space, the Woodland Park can fit any need. Come see it today and experience what honest customer service is with the friendly folks at Gatesville RV Service and Sales.
Hey folks, Derek Scott here with Jim Turner Chevrolet. I would like to thank everyone that supports the JTC family and let you know that our